All right, college football fans, don't kid yourself. The pipeline from Palo Alto, California to the NFL is strong and steady, and there's very few across the country that can beat it. 6 NFL draftees in this past May's draft. We bring in Don King, a last word on sports, to break down all this talent that's left the Cardinal this season and how they're possibly going to replace them for 2015. Don, of course, thanks so much for joining us. Let's dive in right away on probably the most known of these players because of the position he plays. Ty Montgomery going in the 3rd round to the Green Bay Packers after catching 61 passes the last 2 years, 20 career touchdowns if you count up everything that he does on the field. So how do the Cardinal replace Ty Montgomery?
Yeah, the Cardinal replaced Ty Montgomery, whom I like to refer to as the human Swiss Army knife, with about 4 other guys is what's really going to happen. But candidly, that loss, I think, is going to be okay. At the end of the day, I don't think that's the one that's going to be most difficult, but it is going to require the most adjustments and the greatest number of incremental guys to kind of fill all of those holes. From a receiver standpoint, the biggest news that Stanford got was Devin Kajus deciding to come back for his 4th and final year of eligibility. I think that's huge. And he and Montgomery were a very formidable pair when both were healthy on the outside. Kajus is big as a freight train, but still brings some pretty good speed to the game. I think you'll continue to see him play the same role he's played in the past. It's kind of a possession/field stretcher down the middle of the field, big body, too fast for a tight end kind of a guy. To replace the Montgomery role, don't be surprised to see Michael Rector, who's often been the 3rd receiver in the past, kind of slide in to fill that role. Brings great speed to the game, comparable, if not even a little faster than Montgomery, although not quite as big. Also a pretty good pair of hands on the outside. Look for Rector to kind of be the guy to fill the Montgomery role. And then backfilling Rector from a receiving standpoint, here's a name to keep in mind: Isaiah Brandt-Sims. This kid was a redshirt freshman last year, so he did not play, or he was a redshirt last year, did not play his freshman year. He is the 4-time Washington State 200-meter sprint champion who is competing for Stanford on the track team this spring, so didn't participate heavily in spring ball. But look for him to be the Michael Rector field stretcher as Rector kind of slides over to backfill Montgomery within the passing game.
Okay, 13th. I'm sorry, Don. You got more for us?
Return game. Yeah, the return game, right quick, was fairly ably handled as Montgomery was hurt last season. Look for that to continue. Christian McCaffrey and Barry J. Sanders will continue to pick up the slack there as they did late in the year when Monty was hurt. Don't think we're going to miss much of a step there with those 2 guys kind of also sliding in to fill in those duties.
Okay, of course, when we watch the games, we focus on the skill guys, but then we find out when we watch the NFL draft how important the guys up front are. Andrus Peat, one of the best in the business, 13th pick in the 1st round to New Orleans, playing that tackle position. Your thoughts on who's going to possibly replace those giant steps?
Yeah, you're going to see Kyle Murphy slide from the right tackle over to left to protect Kevin Hogan's blind side. And you're likely going to see Casey Tucker, whom was hurt most of the spring, replace Murphy at right tackle. I think the Mike Bloomgren, the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, will feel very comfortable given the amount of experience these guys have gotten in the past. Tucker was often an extra lineman who would come in on jumbo packages, and so he's seen plenty of playing action. Murphy is battle tested and was almost as highly regarded coming out of high school as Pete was. So it looks like he'll slide back to his natural left tackle position. Tucker will, assuming health again this fall, will plug back in on the right side, and hopefully the line will keep on trucking. The rest of the interior linemen who started last year are all back, so looks pretty good. And there are some reinforcements for the future. The 2015 class brings in a couple of linemen who should get some red shirt time this season and spend a year in Shannon Turley's strength and conditioning program. And the Tunnel Workers Union should be reinvigorated going forward.
All right, Don, that's the offense. Now the defense gets ravaged. The Indianapolis Colts apparently love your defensive line. David Perry going in the 5th round. Henry Anderson, defensive end, in the 3rd round. Anderson, 15 tackles for loss, 4th on the team in tackles, 8.5 sacks. Perry at nose tackle, racking up statistics. You don't see this out of a nose tackle very often, with 12 combined sacks and tackles for loss. So inside, outside, there are guys that need to step up there. And we talked about the depth issues in the spring.
Absolutely. But here's the good news. As thin as the defensive line was in the spring, a couple of touted recruits from last year really stepped up big in the spring, throughout the spring and in the spring game. So look for Harrison Phillips to have a big year on the interior of the defensive line. The plan, I think, was to redshirt him last year. His red shirt got pulled because of other injury issues last season even. So he saw some action and acquitted himself very nicely and played really well in the Foster Farms Bowl against Maryland. Look for him to be a huge factor this coming season on the line, and he can play both the end and the nose tackle as necessary. Jordan Watkins looks to be a nose tackle option as well. He is entering his 4th year on the farm after redshirting as a freshman. Has dealt with some injury issues, looks to play significantly this coming season. But what many of us Stanford faithful are most excited about is to see Solomon Thomas, the 5-star recruit out of Texas who redshirted last season. He was absolutely unblockable in the spring game and figures to man the starting position for one of the defensive end spots. And we expect him to play really, really well. Offensive tight end convert Luke Kamatule also has bulked up well, and he plans to figure into the plan significantly, as a monstrous 6'7" defensive end. Expect to see a lot out of him as well this season.
Now, Don, of course, you had 2 extremely productive linebackers over the course of their careers, and I think this really points out how difficult it is to get drafted in what is currently a 7-round draft. A.J. Tarpley on the inside, James Vaughters on the outside. Again, extremely productive. Tarpley 2nd on the team with 84 stops. Vaughters had 11 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks. So you lose a lot there from what's been traditionally an extremely strong linebacking core.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you, A.J. Tarpley is like the Ed Cota of Stanford football. I swear he had like 9 years of eligibility. And he's a great leader, and he's participated in some huge plays throughout his career for Stanford football, including that end zone fumble recovery against the USC game in triple overtime. So it's going to be a loss. It's going to hurt a little bit to see him head off into the sunset. But there's a lot of talent at the linebacker position, some very highly touted recruits who have come into the program, some of whom started to see some playing time last year. Blake Martinez was an honorable mention, all-conference performer. Don't be shocked to see him on a 1st or 2nd team All-Pac-12 roster after this season. Shaw has spoken incredibly highly of him and calls him a breakout star waiting to happen. He plans to be the inside linebacker captain of the defense. Nor Davis got some good playing time last year and seems to be progressing nicely. A couple of guys you didn't see as much of, Kevin Palma coming off an injury, redshirted last year, has looked good at times during the spring, although battling some injury issues during the spring as well. But the linebacker future looks bright. Peter Colombai got to play quite a bit last year, and in fact, really showed out one week and was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week. So he has the flexibility to play either outside or on the inside. Expect him to play an outside linebacker position. Expect him to start, and expect him to make a huge difference in 2015.
Yeah, this 2014 Stanford edition really filling up the middle rounds, the 2nd, the 3rd rounds for this NFL draft, and we've got a couple more with cornerback Alex Carter. What's impressive about him, in addition to the talent, is that he played every game as a freshman, then he started every game as a sophomore and junior. Then I know you love Jordan Richards as at that strong safety position going to the Patriots, and that bodes well for his future with Bill Belichick and company thinking that much of him after he picked off 3 passes and from the safety spot with 79 tackles, 3rd on the team.
Yeah, Richards will be missed more for his leadership and intelligence than anything. You know, he was clearly the quarterback of the back end for each of the last 2 seasons and did a fantastic job keeping everybody organized back there. He'll be missed, but he figures to fit right into what the Patriots like to do. He's exactly their kind of a highly intelligent back end of the defense player. To replace him, it looks like there are going to be a couple of offensive converts manning the safety position. So former quarterback Dallas Lloyd will likely play the free safety position. Strong safety will most likely be former wide receiver Cody Whitfield. He of the spectacular one-handed backhand grab against UCLA a couple of years ago. Both of them apparently have settled in really nicely to their roles, earning high praise from Dwayne Akina, the secondary coach. They figure to start this coming season. Another loss that we haven't mentioned, Zach Hoffpower, who played nickel a lot and also was a backup at safety, has been absolutely knocking the cover off the ball for the Stanford baseball team this season. He figures to be a reasonably high Major League Baseball draft pick, and as such, we might lose him to professional baseball, which will be a bit of a shot as well, at least from a depth standpoint. That said, though, there are some really talented players also prepared to step up. Guys like Denzel Franklin, who absolutely destroyed Barry J. Sanders along the sideline during the spring game. He's a big hitter and looks to get some run, perhaps as a short yardage nickel type player or as a backup safety. And at the cornerback positions, Ronnie Harris is back, figures to start on one side, kind of in the Alex Carter role. And Terrence Alexander, who played quite a bit last year as a true freshman, figures to be in good position to start on the other side at corner. So a lot of talent in the defensive backfield. They're just young. Might be some growing pains, particularly early in the season, but there's good speed, good aggression, and of course they've got one of the best coaches in the business helping them to put it all together, hopefully, and restock and revitalize the Stanford defense, which was one of the very best in the country in 2014.
How'd this team lose 5 games?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery to many of us. It shouldn't have. The schedule set up ridiculously difficult, given the number of road games, but, out of conference road games that were tough against Notre Dame, for instance. And yeah, but it shouldn't have lost 5 games last season. Really shouldn't have. And shouldn't lose 5 games this year by any stretch. Can it keep the losses to 1 or 2 this season? We'll see. And of course, one of the big question marks is going to be in the kicking game if it comes down to something that's going to be close and require a clutch performance at the end.
Good stuff, Don. Appreciate it. Of course, we'll want to track you down sometime this summer and set up that schedule as well. I noticed Central Florida and an interesting trip to Northwestern to start things off in the finale at Notre Dame. So that's about as tough a non-conference slate as anybody in the country.
Totally agreed. Yeah, the schedule from a non-conference standpoint is kind of tough, but at least 2 out of the 3 are at home this year as opposed to past years. So it's challenging, but certainly more doable than last year's schedule, which just proved to be a little bit too much to handle.
All right, Don King, a last word on sports, breaking down Stanford and all that talent lost and who's going to step in those gaps and who we're going to see featured this fall on both sides of the football, especially on defense. Don, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Have a great Sunday.